Welcome to the Supply Chain Ambassador podcast. I'm your host, Bruno, helping you navigate the world of supply chain in a fun and engaging way. On today's podcast, I have Alberto. Alberto is a senior advisor at the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat, shaping a new professional development framework for the procurement and material management communities for the Government of Canada. With over 20 years in public service, Alberto has led initiatives to increase women's participation in procurement, expand collaboration across jurisdictions, and modernize service delivery to Canadians. His international background, including work in 4 countries and an international MBA, has been an enabler for his passion for connecting big ideas to practical results. Alberto loves exploring Ottawa's surrounding nature, traveling, and learning how the world works, from the resilience of tardigrades to how humanity went from inventing the radio to sending humans into space in just 60 years. He channels this curiosity and learning into creative solutions for complex challenges. Welcome, Alberto. I've been very much looking forward to having you on the podcast. Being in the procurement community, I have seen all the work that you've done with Treasury Board and the work that you've done in building the capacity and establishing the framework for us procurement officers. Outside of your bio, let's get more context about how you got to your current role. What did you do and how did you get to where you are?
First of all, Bruno, thank you very much for having me here today. It's really an honor to be invited to be in a podcast and to share my experience. And when we start talking about ourselves, it's like the Star Wars, right? Like, where do we start? Because we can't start in anything and the chapters can go like before and after, right?
Yeah.
So let me start by the common thread in my career and actually in my life. I've always been obsessed by how public policy shapes people's lives and economic opportunities. I started my journey studying business and economics in Mexico and in Spain, focusing on economic development and on how business can either benefit or be hit by the way public policy is designed and implemented. Early in my career in Mexico, I worked on proposals to reconvert part of the agricultural sector in light of the then new NAFTA agreement. So you can imagine how old I am. I just like considering that, right? But I was a puppy at the time, I have to say, you know? Yeah. And one of those proposals helped open the door for Mexico to export berries to Canada, the US, and Europe during the boreal winter. So that showed me how the policy decision on paper can literally change what ends up on people's tables. And also benefits me because I love berries in the winter to put on my cereal, as we were talking before.
Yeah,
right?
you were talking about that earlier.
So being in Canada and having this is like I can see actually something that I contributed to, and it makes me proud every time that I go to the supermarket. And about 30 years ago, I came to Canada to study my master's. And I came with a suitcase and 2 carry-ons, as many of us have gone to this country. Yeah. And on the way from the airport, I came to Ottawa, I landed in Ottawa. From the airport to the university, the taxi went through the canal. And I said, wow, the city is beautiful. Just like those 15-minute ride. And I thought, I think that this is going to be a good fit. And here I am, 30 years later. But as part of my master's, I had to do an internship. And I work with what is now Employment and Social Development Canada. At the time, Canada was promoting partnerships with other governments to share expertise on labor market frameworks. And even as a foreign student, I was sent to represent Canada in negotiations with the governments of Mexico, Chile, Argentina, and with the World Bank. And that opportunity and experience in the government marked me. And I realized that eventually I wanted to work for the government of Canada and contribute to this country in a meaningful way.
What a journey going from your experiences in Mexico, coming to a new city, but then also you never lost that because you got involved in working in the space that you loved. So I love that. I'm just also surprised that you chose Ottawa after seeing the canal. So
Well, I did several applications.
yeah.
I was accepted in universities in other countries.
Okay.
In the
But-
middle between Mexico and Canada as well.
Yeah.
But at the time, it just sounded like Canada was a better fit.
Okay, fair enough.
And then when I arrived, I realized, wow, this is great. And, the first winter was amazing.
Yes.
Beautiful. It's like, oh, it's minus 30. Oh, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Then
10 years later.
The second year started to change a little bit. And then I graduated, and before joining the public service, I spent several years in the private sector in a very glamorous role. I was traveling around the world, meeting and dining with senior foreign government officials, and it was very exciting. But as I became a Canadian citizen, I remember that experience that I had in my internship. And I feel a strong pull, again, to give something back to Canada. And I accepted a position as a financial officer in the public service and left the private sector. I'll be honest, a week in, I regretted it. The culture felt like a bad fit. Fortunately, I had a director who saw potential in me and became my mentor. And she helped me navigate and find my place. From there, I moved through several roles at what is now Public Service and Procurement Canada, designing new business models, working on what was then procurement renewal. So procurement is always in a transformation. And yes, so there are different waves, and at the time was that procurement renewal wave. So I was assessing departments' readiness for new procurement delegations, that 25,000 delegation of goods. I was part of the team that assisted them in building the capacity for them to take them. And there's a very funny stories about that, how all those delegations came about. And I was also acting as a mediator between PSPC and operational departments. And that experience opened my eyes on the importance of collaboration in achieving outcomes.
That is fantastic. I would love to dive into some of those stories of how we chose that, but maybe save that for another podcast.
Happy to come back all at any time.
Yeah.
Or going for a coffee, like a
Oh,
coffee.
right.
We can do
Some
that
other
as well.
stuff.
Yeah. So at one point, my former mentor called me and offered me a role with the Receiver General to manage the delivery all of Government of Canada payments. So that implied a team of about 1,000 people and an operating budget of roughly $60 million to see $1.5 trillion flowing around.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I wanted that position because I wanted to develop my career in a field more related to economics and international trade, because
That's what you studied.
that's what I studied, and that's one of my passions. So I consulted a career advisor. And I remember her. She clearly told me that I would be crazy not to take on that challenge. And so I accepted, and that role really deepened my understanding of how money, policy, and operations connect at the scale. After a few years, I was asked by another director that I had to return to procurement modernization, another procurement transformation, as head of the project management office. And then I moved to the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, which is now Procurement Solutions Canada. And at OSME, I led the development of the strategy for participation of women in procurement in alignment with the then women entrepreneurship strategy from the government. I also identify when to increase small and medium businesses' participation across different commodities. And that was my equity and inclusion through procurement chapter. Then from there, I moved into federal, provincial, territorial, and international collaborative procurement. It's a very different environment where you're dealing with provinces, territories, and foreign governments. I acted as director for about a year and updated the policy framework to include services as one of the offerings of the program. Then the pandemic hit, and that network became essential. We work with provinces, territories, and other countries to learn from each other, align efforts. I faced the challenge that was the procurement of personal protective equipment under extreme pressure. That was also a very disruptive time for procurement because the lockdowns and not knowing about what we were going to do with the contracts that were in place at the time. But it was exciting as well at the time, and having to work from home suddenly and how we adapted, I thought that was amazing and show us the power that we have to be resilient in a crisis. And I later competed in an EX process at Treasury Board Secretariat. I didn't make it into the pool, but I did something important. I asked for an opportunity anyway, and that opportunity came. So today, I'm a senior advisor of the Controllership Community Development Office. I led the development of the new professional development framework for procurement and material management in the government of Canada. And in simple terms, it's a comprehensive approach to building and managing capacity in our procurement and material management community. Yeah. It's helping practitioners to succeed in their roles, grow in their careers, and deliver excellence and results with accountability. I see my work being about making sure that the people who manage public procurement across departments have the skills, the support, and the pathways that they need to deliver for Canadians. And that's a great honor and responsibility.
It really is.
Thank you, because the feedback from the community has been very positive.
Okay, good. If they're not, let them know my name and I'll go up and have a chat with them.
So you were cracking your knuckles.
Today's episode was brought to you by Workaway Offices, Ottawa's premier flexible workspace provider. Their beautifully designed facilities offer everything from co-working, desks, and private offices to fully managed executive suites, along with meeting rooms, virtual business addresses, and more. It's everything a professional needs under one roof. Whether you're a freelancer, a startup founder, or a remote worker, Workaway Offices makes work fun and flexible. So visit Workaway Offices to book a tour and learn more. What would you say that you love about the work that you do?
There are several things I love about my work, and I generally do love my work. The first thing is that I can clearly see the impact of Canadians. That's the reason why I joined the public service. So this is an abstract for me. When we strengthen the professional capacity of procurement and material, we are directly influencing how billions of public dollars are spent, how quickly services reach people, and whether we get value for money. That's my way of contributing to a better Canada in a very tangible way. The second thing that I love about my work has to do with the reason that I came to Canada, but why I stay in Canada. I'm part of a team that is diverse, dynamic, and very results-oriented. And I don't have to mask or pretend to be someone I'm not. My neurodiversity, which in some environments has been seen as an annoyance, is understood as a powerful asset where I am now. I can speak openly about who I am and how I think. My lifestyle isn't judged, And that psychological safety is priceless.
Yeah.
And it took many years in the public service to find it. Third, I'm proud that senior management and leaders of the procurement function across the government of Canada were willing to support a radical transformation in how we manage our workforce. Mm-hmm. For many departments, this is the first time that they are adopting a truly competency-based approach to managing their procurement and material communities. The Canada School of Public Service is replacing entire learning architectures, building new ways of developing courses aligned with the framework. Being at the center of that transformation is incredibly energizing.
But fun as well.
It's fun as well because we have focused before on policy and guidance.
Yeah.
And professional development, because of several issues, was not looked after in detail. Yeah. So now we are doing that, and we are finally putting the last piece of a transformation that has started several years ago, and that is key in order to deliver the outcomes that policy and procurement itself are to contribute to. I often say I wake up in the morning with a rush of energy, thinking, how are we going to deliver this huge transformation with the limited resources that we have? At Treasury Board, we're a very lean department. And I don't ask that in a negative way, because it's a challenge that my team and I embrace together. We work hard, we laugh, we vent, and we keep going because the feedback from the community is very clear. You said it yourself. We needed this, and please go faster. Yeah. So there's not just a nice feeling, it's an objective signal that what we do matters, especially now when we're being asked to deliver more efficiently and effectively in a time of fiscal restraint. And knowing that our work is both needed and valued is what I love the most.
Are there any misconceptions about what you do?
No, working at the Treasury Board, there are many myths. No, there are many myths, and we hear them all the time. You know, when I always say that talking with me is always safe. You know, like if I ask questions, I'm ready to get the answer. And when I talk to practitioners, to people outside of a central agency, I hear the same myths of what people think of the work that we do and how we do it. What I most often hear is that central agencies live in an ivory tower and are out of touch with operations. It's true that I'm not the one running individual procurement processes, but to work in a central agency, you actually have to know operations extremely well. You have to be a subject matter expert and understand the environment on the ground, plus see the bigger picture. How policy, risk, operations, and the political expectations all connect. Good central agency work is not only possible by being an expert in policy. You really need to understand what departments are living day to day. Otherwise, what you produce will be rejected instantly. The other myth that I hear often is that central agencies just invent policies without really knowing what they're doing. I'm pretty sure that you have heard that from many people when you're on the ground, you know, with teams when they hit up, like new policy from TVS, a new requirement for TVS, right? But we don't sit in a room and invent things. Actually, I do. But not before a huge amount of groundwork has been done. And in the case of framework like the Professional Development Framework for Procurement and Material Management, the work started by asking, are current approaches working? In this case, we had years of Auditor General reports, feedback from departments and the business community, and for practitioners themselves, all pointing to issues in capacity and outcomes. So we know that there is a problem. But then we ask, why isn't it working and how do we fix it? And again, we don't sit on a board at this moment, right? That's not the time yet to do that. And what we do is that we get involved into doing a lot of gap analysis, looking at recommendations from oversight bodies and from organizations like the OECD and the European Union on strengthening professional capacity in procurement. We identified trends and best practices in other jurisdictions as well. Another misconception is that we just look at one variable and push a solution. In reality, we know that complex problems require multidimensional approaches. That's why the framework has multiple pillars and elements under each pillar. It covers everything from competencies and learning to talent management and community building, and establishes a clear roadmap after a risk analysis has been done. And the framework also delineates the roles and responsibilities of all of those involved in the function. Senior designated officials, managers and supervisors, and the practitioners. And even then, we don't just publish and say, here you go. We go through extensive consultations with departments through multiple forums, with partners like the Office of the Chief Human Resources Officer and the Canada School of Public Service, internally across the Controller General Office, and with the practitioner communities through surveys, professional associations, and bargaining agents. Those consultations confirmed that the core concept was sound and helped us refine it into a stronger, more realistic product. Only after all of that did the Controller General formally communicate the framework and mandated certain elements in May of 2025. So what people see as a new requirement from TBS, it's actually the visible tip of years of analysis, design, and co-creation. The third myth that we often hear is that Treasury Board just drops a policy and leaves departments alone to figure it out. Maybe sometimes that happens, maybe sometimes, but I sometimes joke that if that were true in the case of the professional development framework, my job would be a lot easier. Okay, done. Next. But it would also be a failure. For the professional development framework did not proceed until key stakeholders gave us the green light. Of course, not everybody was comfortable. Big change always creates discomfort, but do nothing was not an option, especially when parliamentary committees and oversight bodies like the Auditor General expected us to address systemic issues. To make sure that the changes would work, we piloted with selected departments certain elements. We were working closely with them in a controlled environment, which allows us to refine the approach, identify what support tools were needed, and designed a realistic pathway for GC-wide implementation. We recognized early on that departments could need guidance, not just direction. That's why we developed an implementation guide, practical tools and templates that we continue to refine as we get feedback from practitioners. And we deliver multiple awareness and learning sessions for executives, managers, supervisors, and practitioners themselves, including tailored sessions for the departments that invite us. So, no, we just don't drop policy. I see that we work with departments through the change, which could be a pain, as I said, while we still hold the line of the outcomes that need to be achieved.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you were able to peel back the layers involved.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to do that and to demystify all of these myths about like, how do we do our work at a central agency. And there's still a lot coming up. We're not finished. We're in the process of implementing all of the pieces and building many of the other pieces.
Speaking of process of building, what new exciting things are you working on?
Right now, the most exciting work I'm doing is moving from design to implementation of the professional development framework for procurement and material management across government. Designing the framework was a big achievement, but honestly, the real transformative work starts now. We are supporting departments as they integrate it into how they recruit, develop, recognize, and promote their procurement and material management professionals. That means helping them move from a list of courses to coherent learning paths, from dollar value job descriptions to competency-based ones, and from reactive staffing to real talent management. I'm also very excited about the partnership we're building. We're working closely with the Canada School of Public Service to modernize the learning architecture that supports the framework. And we're engaging with departments, communities of practice, and professional associations so that people don't see this as a TBS thing, but as our shared way of building a strong profession. Another piece that motivates me is inclusion. Me belonging to several equity-seeking groups is very present in how I think about capacity building. I want this framework to help open doors from people from diverse backgrounds, for those who are neurodiverse, and for talent in regions and communities that have been underrepresented in federal procurement roles. In short, the exciting part of this is that we are not just tweaking a course catalog, which could have been easier. Not easy, but easier. We are reshaping what it means to be a procurement or material management professional in the government of Canada for the next decade.
Very exciting project, and I look forward to seeing the outcome of that as I proceed in my career as well, because I definitely lean on the resources, all the guidance, all the materials, all the framework. Like, I lean on that a lot to help guide me and help me look forward to what learnings I can acquire for my professional growth.
And ultimately, the final end outcome, it's on you.
Yeah.
So we're going to be giving you the tools
Yeah.
with your department, and then you have to use them and demonstrate those competencies and that you acquired. And if something is not working, you will let us know. You are going to hold us also accountable.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Helping, right?
Yeah. And I love that. And that leads me to just advice to procurement officers in general. What advice would you give to us?
My title is advisor, right? So you have to be careful with that question. So I'll focus on a few key messages. The first one is, remember that procurement is not just about rules and processes. We tend to be caught into that and say, this is the rules, this is what it says, and this is how you have to do it. It's about outcomes. Every time you design a strategy of run a process, you are shaping economic activity, having an environmental impact, and delivering on social outcomes. See yourself as a strategic partner in delivering public value, not just as the person running the RFP. My second piece of advice could be invest in your own professional development. Use the tools that exist: frameworks, competency profiles, learning pathways. Don't wait for your manager to send you on a course. Own your career.
Yeah.
The environment around you is changing. Artificial intelligence, green procurement, reconciliation, new trade challenges, they are not stable. They are all being shaped right now. Staying current is part of your professional responsibility. Third, build relationships. Procurement doesn't happen in isolation. Talk to program people, to finance, to legal, to suppliers. Ask questions. Go to the front line and understand what the procurement is actually supposed to enable. The best procurement professionals are translators. there translate policy and constraints into practical solutions that work on the ground. Fourth, don't be afraid to rock the boat constructively. I love rocking the boat in order to improve always things. Mm-hmm. If something doesn't make sense, say so. If a requirement is shutting down small businesses without a good reason, challenge it. Now, very important to do it respectfully, with evidence and with options. But don't choose comfort over the public interest. The fifth piece of advice, I told you, like you, advisor in the title. Take care of yourself. This is a high-pressure field, especially in times of fiscal restraint and high scrutiny. It's important to set boundaries and to build a support network. And remember that you're part of a community. We're not alone. Use that community to seek support and to learn from each other. And the final piece of advice that I will leave today with is to listen to the Supply Chain Ambassador podcast, of course.
Clearly.
Yes, of course. Share the episodes that move you and discuss them with your teams. Turn this podcast into real change.
Wow, that is fantastic advice. Oftentimes it's like, I wish I had these at the start of my career. But my career is not over yet.
Not at all.
And I'm still growing. So the more I'm getting these advice, the more I'm shaping the way I think about my job and my career. And it's so valuable that you were able to share this with us. Is there a call to action you would like to share?
I would like to share it, and maybe a little bit strong, though, a call for action. But,
yes.
But I think that is important, and it has two parts, one for leaders and one for practitioners. So to senior leaders who may be listening to us, treat procurement and material management capacity as a strategic infrastructure, not just an administrative detail. You cannot deliver on your priorities, whether it's massive infrastructure, climate action, digital government, inclusion, or fiscal responsibility, without a strong, well-supported procurement profession. Invest in your people, give them clarity, tools, and room to exercise judgment. And when they bring you uncomfortable truths, listen. To practitioners, claim your space as professionals. You are not just processing contracts. You are stewards of public trust and public money. Use the framework, communities, and learning opportunities available to you. Push for better ways of doing things. Support your colleagues, and don't underestimate the impact you can have from whatever level you're at. And to everyone in the ecosystem, central agencies, departments, suppliers, and my call to action is, let's work together to make procurement a true lever for public good. We know what many of the problems are. We have examples of better practices. What we need now is the courage and the discipline to scale them. If we get this right, procurement stops being the bottleneck or the headline risk that we see in newspapers or talking about at parliamentary committees, and it becomes what it always should have been. I see it as a quiet, powerful engine of better outcomes for people.
Well, Alberto, I'm very grateful that you came on this podcast and you shared your insights, you shared your journey, you shared your list of misconceptions. You clarified a lot for me in terms of what goes behind the scenes at Treasury Board. You talked about the exciting projects that you're leading that will set the framework for procurement officers into the future. And you gave really great advice that I think that we should take to heart and bring that to our everyday. I love that you addressed not just the procurement officers in your call to action, but also the wider supply chain community, the managers, and it paints a picture where we can all come together to deliver those better outcomes that you had mentioned. So, with that said, I think that I will wrap up. I will open the floor back to you once more if there's any questions that you have or comments.
My comment is always, we're not alone. You can see from my path that at some moments I struggle, and I was fortunate to find people who supported me. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know how to deal with this challenge. There's a huge network out there that is willing to help you. But if they don't know, they're not going to come to you. And sometimes you may reach to someone and hoping that you're going to be heard. And it's a door that is shut down. But it doesn't mean that there are no others. So it's not easy, but it's not impossible. And thank you for inviting me again, being here, and for all of the work that you do to strengthen the community, because I know that you do it out of your heart.
Thank you.
And you're an example to follow by all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And door opened. So I reached out and the door was opened.
And I'm around. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm around.
Perfect. That concludes today's episode of the Supply Chain Ambassador podcast. Please do like, share, follow, and be part of the community and help us grow together as we navigate our world. Thank you and see you later.
Ciao.